Hey guys, welcome to the show. So today it's going to be a dead quick, dead easy one. 5 things that piss me off about Rolex. There could be quite a few that I've named actually. I've written them all down. I've got my little list here. The business status, the waiting list, the lead times, production, the grey market, the ownership rules, the ADs, the marketing strategies, the attitude of the staff, the perception and the risk factor, just to name but a few. Some of them overlap, so I'm just going to get it condensed into 5 points that annoy me about Rolex. I'm Andrew, and I'm a watch addict. Right, so the first one is a bit weird, to be honest. Rolex, the perception of Rolex is that they are one of the greatest luxury brands out there, but they are classed as a registered charity, and it just doesn't sit right with me that they're not a charity, are they? Now, don't get me wrong, they may do 1,000,001 really good things for the community in Switzerland, for the wider world. They may spend millions on it, but to be registered as a charity with Swiss law means that they don't actually have to dictate or notify anyone of how much of their money they do donate to charity. So it reeks a bit of, dare I say, tax evasion, and I think they do get a lot of tax breaks. That's just not my opinion. That's a quick Google search. Find out for yourself. And you just think, well, they sponsor Wimbledon, the height of luxury, and all the rich people that play tennis and go to watch tennis. Formula One, again, an incredibly wealthy sport. They sponsor them sports. They'd be better off being a normal business and shouting about how much charity work they do. So yeah, it just doesn't sit right with me. Is it a deal breaker? No, but it's a bit weird, I think, isn't it? It is definitely. So number 2 is the waiting lists. The waiting list. What a mockery. What a load of bullshit the waiting lists are, aren't they? The Rolex ADs will give Rolex watches to whoever they want. Now, if Mr. Billy Big Bollocks walks in and buys a ton of gold jewellery and a load of diamonds and says, oh, quite like one of those Rolex Super Marios. Yeah, and don't worry, sir, we'll get one in the safe and we'll give it you. And I think all the big spenders get the watches they want. So the waiting lists, I think they need to have a lot more clarity and a lot more openness about who's on the waiting list, how long they will be. I've been told from ADs in the past that they don't know how many Rolex watches they're getting that year. They've already allocated all the Rolex watches they are getting that year. So that's a contradiction in itself, isn't it? And there's a list, but we can't tell you how many people are on it. We can't tell how many watches. It's just bollocks, I think. So yeah, the waiting list, if there were a lot more clarity around the waiting lists, you would feel part of something. You won't feel totally fobbed off, which when I've gone on a list in the past, I feel totally fobbed off, to be honest. Number 3 is ownership rules. Now, it is bizarre that you can spend thousands of pounds with any company, but the rule is you can never, ever sell this item. It's yours, you've paid for it, you own it, but you can't sell it. And if you do, you'll be in our bad books and you will never get a watch again. That is outrageous that a company, an AD, whoever's dictating that, can actually ask loyalty of you that is only reserved for children, wives, partners, husband, lovers. That sort of loyalty of, you're mine, I'll keep you forever, I love you, and you'll always be in my life. That's not a watch. That's just a piece of metal that tells the time. So for Rolex to ask that of you, do they ask you? They say you can, they say you can't. It's almost like an unwritten rule. And if you get found out selling that watch, you'll be in trouble. And I think that's massively, massively out of order. I think that's a proper shithousery thing to do. I've owned Rolexes that I've managed to buy at list price, which has been great. The first Rolex Submariner I bought, I had it when I was probably earning half the money I'm earning now. Not that I'm got a mega great job or anything, but at the time I thought, I'm walking around with a £6,500 watch on my wrist, and we need stuff done in the house. We just moved into a new home, so I sold that watch for, I think it was exactly the same amount that I bought it for, so we could do things around the house. So I took that risk, and then I got another Rolex Submariner, day and no day, it was different version. And the family needed a holiday. I had to spend it on my family on Christmas, and I had no regrets. I'd owned it for about a year, totally enjoyed it. But if I have to scoop money from somewhere not feed my family, but to take us on holiday or to do something special with the kids. I don't have that loyalty to a watch. They're just watches, and I love my watches more than anything. I really do. So, number 4, camera cut out. Should have seen it coming. I bet you've all got loads and loads and loads of stories about this, and it is the attitude of the staff in the ADs. I've been lied to, I've been deceived, I've been ignored, I've been spoken down to. Horrendous. And that's not just in one AD, that's across the board. And it's just, I mean, my wife works in retail. I have nothing against people that work in retail, but you still just work in a shop. Where does the arrogance come from? You don't own Rolex, you don't make these watches, but yeah, they've got such a, not an aura, but they think they've got an aura and a presence about them, and it's really discerning. Now, that's not everybody. I've come across great people that work in Rolex ADs. But yeah, as an example, I went on a list in one ADs years later. I completely forgot I'd gone on the list, and I went back in when they'd got a new shop, and I said, look, I'm on the list. Is there a chance of this watch? It's been ages now. I said, I've ended up buying watches from other ADs because you never got in touch. And they just went, well, if you've got a relationship with the Rolex ADs, I suggest you shop in those Rolex ADs, as in, piss off, we don't want your business. So that's just one story. I'd love to hear your stories of the attitudes of Rolex staff members in ADs. A little story that I've been told by someone that has got a friend who is a big dog that buys lots of big end watches, and he's after a Pepsi, my mate, but he's struggling to get it, is that if you buy all the gold watches and you prove that you've kept the gold watches, that's when you get the steel ones. That's when you get the Pepsis, the Batmans, the Daytonas. So it's just all about money and wealth and spend. And if you can show that you're a big dog, that's how you get the watches. And for us watch enthusiasts, it's a little bit discerning. You get fed up with it after a while, don't you? So the last one, pretty obvious one, is that they're just not easy to get. Now, for me, I love Rolex. I've always loved Rolex. I've never made a secret that it's probably my favourite brand. But the way I change and chop my watches is not a monetary gain because it's Rolex. That I have just loved experiencing different watches. That's why I've started a YouTube channel. That's why I've got a dedicated Instagram page, just taking photos of watches. It's ridiculous. It's pathetic. It's embarrassing. I don't tell people in the normal world about it, but it's my hobby. And I love experiencing new watches, and I desperately want to experience Rolex watches on a regular basis, as I do when I'm experiencing Rolex, Omega, Tudor, whatever. So it's difficult to get a Rolex, and yeah, that pisses me off. Am I bitter about it? Absolutely. It would be nice if they just forget the grey market and forget all the added thing there. If they just, Rolex, by all accounts, produced between 800,000 and 1 million watches last year. That's more than Omega. But every Omega you go into, every Omega shop, they're going to manage to get 1 or 2 Seamasters in the window. Why can't Rolex do that? Is it all just a massive marketing ploy? It's the same old thing, innit? Even like a boy and a girl in the school. If she doesn't want you, if he doesn't want you, you end up wanting them more. And is that a marketing ploy by Rolex that they keep everything in the safe? It's not available, and then lo and behold, they just pull it out of somewhere and they can provide it for the people they want to provide it for. So could they put more watches in the windows? I reckon they could, and I reckon it's a marketing ploy to encourage people to think that they're so elusive, so popular. And I've gone down that road quite often with Rolex, and I love them, but with it being so difficult to get one now, it's off-putting and it pisses me off. So they're the 5 things that piss me off about Rolex. Tell me if you agree. Tell me if you think I'm full of nonsense. No, forget that last bit. Right, guys, over and out. I'll see you in the next one.